Hi everybody, welcome back to IndyCar on the, what is it today? The 4th today? Always have to double check. It's the 4th of March today. And today, well, what we're looking at today, we're looking at Mrs May, Jeremy Corbyn having to get together basically to try and thrash out a way forward with Brexit and try and break the deadlock. But are they going to do that? We don't know. With every major UK party actually split down the middle on Brexit. The whole of Parliament split down the middle on Brexit, almost exactly 50%. And the government itself split down the middle on Brexit. We've not only got we've got hung parties, a hung parliament and a hung government. Nobody in the English parties can decide whether to leave the EU or not, if to leave the EU, when to leave it, how to leave it, whether it's with a deal, without a deal. Nobody has a clue what they're talking about or what they're doing. And in the meantime, it's announced today by the Metropolitan Police that they have made available a 1,000 officer strong, what would you call it, flying squad of riot police ready to take down any troublemakers who decide that they want to start trouble in the streets of the capital. I mean, London, by the capital. So they're obviously anticipating more trouble, and they're anticipating more trouble for a good reason, which is that it looks very likely that Mrs May will be seeking a further delay. She's already decided she wants a delay to Brexit of up to the 22nd of May, which would crash us right up against the European Union's general election, the election for European members of Parliament. Now, if it went on beyond that, the European Union's 27 other states would have to decide whether they would allow the United Kingdom to remain in the Union when it has already signed Article 50, it has said it's leaving, is committed to leaving, but would the European Union want such a cuckoo in the nest, somebody who doesn't want to be there, who's forcing MEPs upon the European Union who don't want to be there? I don't think they will. I think the European Union is going to say no to this because in a normal world they would have said no a couple of weeks ago, and they have bent over backwards, forwards and sideways to allow the United Kingdom time to make its mind up, and it can't. The European Union will be waiting forever for the United Kingdom to make up its mind because they can't make up their minds. They have painted themselves into a corner. The United Kingdom had a referendum on leaving the EU, and the people decided they wanted to leave the EU, but the government doesn't want them to, Parliament doesn't want them to, and the UK parties do not want them to do it either. Otherwise, this would have happened long ago. So what's the problem? It seems that the people were sold Brexit on a false premise, and the United Kingdom government didn't expect to win it, because they knew that they'd been talking a load of lies to begin with, and they were surprised that people believed it enough to vote for Brexit. So now we have the population of England wanting Brexit, but all of their elected representatives trying to stop it, basically. That's what it amounts to. And so we end up with this bizarre situation where the government can't govern, the Parliament cannot debate, and nobody can take a decision one way or the other as we sit and teeter on this knife edge between being in or out of the European Union. This is basically Schrodinger's union, and as soon as you open the box it'll either be in the EU or out of the EU, but at the moment it's existing with a foot in each camp. And the way things are looking at the moment, Jeremy Corbyn wants it to remain that way. He wants to be in a customs union, in close alignment with the EU, with freedom of movement, which is actually directly opposite of what he said at the beginning that he wanted. He wanted a clean break. He's never been a Brexit, he's never been an EU fan. And that leaves Scotland again sitting on the sidelines wondering what the hell to do next. Nicola Sturgeon goes down to talk to them, and she has, made a few helpful suggestions about how things could be moved on. And you know what? I actually don't think she should be doing this at all, because anything that helps the British government or the British parties to get out of this mess is really not in our gift to give, and we shouldn't be giving it. We didn't create this scenario. English voters and English politicians created this scenario. It's time Scotland had a chance to decide for itself whether it wants to remain a part of this fiasco any longer. Personally, I don't want to, and I know a lot of other people who were prior no voters who really are sickened now, and they just want to remain in the European Union and stop this craziness from going any further. Especially when you've got the police chief preparing for riots on the streets of London. And we've also heard today that the government cannot stockpile certain drugs, particularly ones used for controlling things like epilepsy. And I myself rely on a version of that drug because of an old spinal injury that I have. If I don't take that drug every day, then I'll be crippled with pain and I won't be able to work if it's not available. So the government's saying that there must not be any interruption in the supply of these drugs, but at the same time they're saying they can't stockpile them. I'd love to ask what the reason is for that. Why on earth can they not stockpile a drug? It's just a tablet like any other tablet. Why is there a problem with stockpiling it? It doesn't go out of date quickly either. I know that because I've been taking them for about 25 years, but I have to keep taking them, otherwise I can't function. So I'm not alone in this, and I know that people who suffer from epilepsy will be desperately worried about this today. All of this is adding up to trouble for everybody, but what I don't want to see happen, and I'm sure the rest of us don't want to see happen, is for harm to start happening to people. Not just me personally, but everybody else who has important medications that they have to take every day in order to make their lives bearable, or in order to make it possible for them to function or to work or to live without pain and without having fits. And this is what I don't want to have happen. I don't want the politicians using us as a political football, where we are allowed to suffer so that the political aim of independence is achieved. I don't think it's worth doing that, and I wouldn't use people that way, and I sincerely hope that nobody in any party is thinking about using people that way. So my opinion, for what it's worth, is it's really time to move. Brexit is not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse, simply because the government's paralysed. It's basically a hung parliament, a hung government with hung parties. No party, other than I think perhaps the Lib Dems are beginning to see the light of day now, but none of the two big parties have got any clue what they're doing. And Corbyn and May's attempt to strike some sort of deal is going to anger everybody. It's going to anger people in Corbyn's party, it's going to anger people in May's party, and this is the kiss of death to Jeremy Corbyn, and he's walking right into the trap. The trap is May wants to share the blame when Brexit goes wrong, and by dragging Corbyn and the Labour Party as the other establishment party in the UK into this mess, into this utter fiasco that it's become, she's hoping to spread the blame around the Labour Party as well as her own party. And Corbyn, I think, is being extremely foolish in allowing himself to be suckered into this. If he's any kind of politician, he should bail out of it now and just say he's not having any part of it. Let the Tories fail. They created the mess. They should be the ones to take responsibility for it. Scotland, on the other hand, needs to stop wringing its hands and running about trying to be helpful to the UK parties and making helpful suggestions. It isn't worth it. What is the point of doing that? We've tried everything. We've tried every reasonable means to get them to see sense, and they won't do it. We've tried every way possible of asking them if we can have a referendum, and they won't do it. So personally, I think it's the end game. By the 22nd of May, we are either going to crash out of the EU completely, which is the most likely thing that's going to happen. It's what the police are preparing for. It's what the medical profession's preparing for. It's what France has already prepared for. The rest of the European Union's ready for no deal Brexit. And yet Mrs May is trying to inveigle the Labour Party into her web of blame and catastrophe. And, well, if Corbyn's stupid enough to fall for this, and the Labour Party gets itself dragged into this morass, then it's only got itself to blame. Frankly, I think both of the parties will be unelectable after this. Neither the Labour Party nor the Tory Party is going to survive this intact. British politics is completely fractured down the middle at every single level of politics. And Scottish politics is remarkably stable. We have a two-party system as well now, which is mostly the SNP and a tiny minority of, well, you could only call them Tory supporters, but even they're dwindling away now. And now there's talk of the Tory party in Scotland actually splitting away and becoming an independent party in Scotland. Do you think perhaps the Tories in Scotland have seen the writing on the wall and they know that their jobs are going to vanish overnight unless they cut themselves adrift from the British party? Because I've never heard the Tories ever in Scotland talking about breaking away and forming a new solely Scottish Tory party. I don't think they've done that in living memory. It might just be a red herring, well, probably is, just a load of talk to sell newspapers like the Scotsman. But one way or another, Brexit is just going to keep on rumbling along indecisively until we crash out of the EU. Believe it or not, the European Union, I don't think, are going to wait any longer than the European elections, because they can't have a cuckoo in the nest who doesn't want to be there. They don't want politicians like Farage and his idiotic bunch shouting and screaming abuse at the Europeans in their own parliament for another 4 or 5 years. They're not going to wear it. Frankly, I don't blame them. I think we should be kicked out of the European Union for this. The whole of the UK deserves no deal Brexit. And as far as the SNP is concerned, it's high time they moved, because they keep waiting for clarity. Clarity is not coming. There is never going to be any clarity on Brexit because they're not going to allow Brexit to happen. They're going to keep teetering on the brink for decades to come, with one foot in and one foot out. And eventually something will go wrong, will be out, and Mrs May will blame Jeremy Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn will blame Mrs May, and the country will just fall apart, as it's already doing. Jobs have already been lost, people are leaving in droves, Europeans are going home because they can't stand the uncertainty any longer. Businesses are going under, airlines are losing money, airlines are relocating, businesses are relocating like mad. It's a mess. They need to end it. They need to put us out of our misery now. I would rather crash out and just deal with it than sit for another 2 weeks or 2 months like this. This is just purgatory. It's pointless delaying it any further. The British government knows that they don't want Brexit. They never wanted Brexit, but they have to deliver it because they promised the people. So come on, British government, man up, take us out of the EU, get on with it, and then let Scotland go, because everybody's fed up waiting for you. See you later, folks. Bye bye.